America. You get free airtime, you get to spout off, you get to create an adversary and hopefully win the Democrat nomination. That is all that is about, because he has lost face because how poorly he has run the state of California low these many years.
Mark Alford, thank you very much for talking to our audience. We appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
Have you ever noticed how some politicians and their biggest supporters sound incredibly confident right up until they're asked one or two simple follow-up questions? That's exactly what you're about to see, and the interview only gets more revealing as it goes on. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. With everything that's been unfolding across the United States, particularly the unrest in Los Angeles, we've watched many of Donald Trump's supporters rush to defend his decision to deploy the National Guard and mobilize elements of the military. According to them, these extraordinary measures were necessary to restore order and protect the public. But once those claims are examined closely, the conversation becomes a lot more complicated. In today's video, a Republican congressman appears on UK television to justify President Trump's response and convince an international audience that the administration acted appropriately. At first, he sounds confident in his position. But as the interview progresses, the tough questions begin to pile up, and that's when the cracks start to show. British journalist Victoria Derbyshire doesn't simply accept the talking points at face value. Instead, she challenges the congressman with direct questions, asks him to explain the apparent inconsistencies, and repeatedly pushes back whenever his answers fail to match the facts being discussed. Rather than controlling the conversation, he finds himself struggling to defend the administration's position under sustained scrutiny. It's a fascinating exchange because it highlights what can happen when political messaging is tested in a live interview instead of being delivered at a campaign rally or in a friendly media environment. The more he's pressed for clear explanations, the more difficult it becomes to maintain the original narrative. Let's watch the interview in full, and once it's over, I'll break down the biggest moments, explain why some of these arguments don't quite hold up under scrutiny, and give you my perspective on what this exchange really tells us.
Let's talk live to Republican Congressman Mark Alford, who is a vocal supporter of Donald Trump in the House. Congressman, thank you very much for speaking to our audience here in the UK and around the world. As I understand it, there are about 4 million people in Los Angeles City. There are about 500 to 800 protesters. You've got hundreds of Marines now being mobilized. How is that proportionate?
Well, it's proportionate to the level of chaos that the mayor, Karen Bass, and the governor, Gavin Newsom, have promulgated on the people there of Los Angeles and the state of California. It got out of control because of them. We are perfectly fine with peaceful protests, but this devolved rather rapidly. At first, the city refused to do anything about it. The police department stood down. That is why the National Guard was brought in to protect property, to protect lives. And now the President of the United States is bringing in several hundred Marines, not to make arrests, not to deal with law enforcement, but to shore up the National Guard so that they can do their job now in coordination with the city that has finally taken action to arrest the thugs, the insurrectionists.
And so can I just clarify, will the Marines be allowed to shoot at protesters?
I highly doubt that. That is not in their purview. That is not in their orders from the President of the United States. Only under the Insurrection Act of our Constitution can Marines or any other law enforcement, that would be a violation of the Posse Comitatus, they cannot act as law enforcement officers on U.S. soil. That is not in their purview. Okay.
We've just shown our audience here in the UK and around the world the live pictures from downtown Los Angeles, and there are hundreds of people there. They are protesting peacefully. The atmosphere seems relatively jovial. Why do you need Marines?
Well, I haven't seen the video to which you were referring of a jovial nature. Yesterday I was watching live for several hours. It was anything but that.
But I'm talking about
these
today.
anarchists,
the 700
people
Marines,
throwing things at police, throwing bricks, throwing concrete, throwing rocks, dropping heavy equipment onto cars, setting cars on fire. That is not jovial. That is insurrection.
Forgive me, Mr. Alford. I'm not suggesting that is jovial. I'm suggesting what we're showing, what you can probably hear in the background now, are protesters, and the atmosphere looks fine. Now, the mayor and the governor of California made it clear that the LAPD could cope. The LAPD, who aren't known to be shrinking violence, let's face it, said the protests were largely peaceful. It doesn't sound like they need the National Guard or the Marines.
Well, you can't wait around, Victoria. It could quickly turn on a dime, or a pound, I should say, that this protest would change in a heartbeat. We saw that happen in the past 2 days. These forces that are being mobilized now, National Guard, local police, in coordination with the U.S. Marine Corps, that is coming in to shore up, not take any other action other than to help shore up these forces and provide support. It is there to try to quell this.
Okay.
You know,
well,
let
me put
the
this to you, if I
Democrats
may.
would try to say that President Trump has inflamed the situation by federalizing the National Guard. The people who fanned the flames on this was the governor, Gavin Newsom, and the mayor, Bass, for not doing anything to stop the violence. We are all about peaceful protest in the United States of America, but they crossed the Rubicon.
The widespread protests following the death of George Floyd back in 2020, when President Trump was in power the first time around, were far, far worse. And Donald Trump did not send the National Guard in then. That is why people are asking now, does he want this battle? Is this just an excuse?
This is not about a battle. This is about the 77 million Americans who voted a mandate to restore law and order in the United States of America, to restore our economic system, to restore security to our border. These all come together now in the orders of the President of the United States, the Homeland Security Secretary, ICE, enforcement of our immigration system. We have got to make sure that we have a future in this country, and that is going to require securing our border, securing our economy, securing our streets, and returning law and order. It's very simple.
Sure, and I'm not
President
asking.
Trump does not want a civil war. He wants justice and he wants peace in America.
I'm actually not asking about the ICE raids. I'm asking you really about the First Amendment of the US Constitution, which guarantees, as you know, the right to assembly, freedom of speech, and the press.
Right.
But is it just when President Trump agrees with it then?
Not at all. We all believe in the First Amendment. I am a former journalist here in the United States of America. I made my career off the First Amendment. President Trump believes in the First Amendment. His administration believes in the First Amendment. But these scallywags have crossed the line. They are insurrectionists. They are funded in parts by outside organizations who are dropping off loads of bricks and concrete blocks and rocks to not just peacefully protest and not have a jovial time, but to disrupt, to harm, and to try to get their way through violence. It will not be tolerated.
Okay, we saw insurrectionists on January the 6th, didn't we? When, of course, President Trump, again, did not call in the National Guard or the Marines. I want to ask you one more question. Has Gavin Newsom stepped over the line? Because, as you know, today, Donald Trump says he would have him arrested. Now, arresting political opponents is what happens in President Putin's Russia, isn't it?
One clarification, Victoria, on your previous statement about January 6th. It is proven now that President Trump did authorize some 24,000 National Guard members to come on January 6th to the Capitol, and Nancy Pelosi refused those National Guard troops. She admitted on tape as to doing that. As far as Governor Gavin Newsom goes, I don't think he will be arrested. He is taunting the President of the United States of America because he intends to run for president. This is what's called earned media in America. You get free airtime, you get to spout off, you get to create an adversary and hopefully win the Democrat nomination. That is all that is about, because he has lost face because how poorly he has run the state of California low these many years.
Mark Alford, thank you very much for talking to our audience. We appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
Now, this is the part that really stands out to me. It's almost like you can predict exactly what's coming before it's even said. Every time these difficult questions come up, we hear the same familiar talking points. The American people gave Donald Trump a mandate. He's restoring law and order. He's doing what voters elected him to do. But here's the problem. Those phrases don't actually answer the questions being asked. And that's exactly why I thought Victoria Derbyshire's performance in this interview was so effective. She refused to let the conversation drift into campaign slogans. Instead, she kept bringing it back to the facts and asking a very simple question. If this level of federal intervention is justified today, then why wasn't the same standard applied in other moments of major unrest? Let's be clear, because this point matters. Nobody is pretending there weren't violent incidents in Los Angeles. Of course there were. But acknowledging that doesn't mean every government response is automatically beyond scrutiny. The real issue is consistency. During the unrest following George Floyd's death, and during the events of January 6th, Donald Trump was also president. Those were significant moments that tested public order. Yet the response looked very different. So it's only fair to ask, why did this situation receive a different approach? Then there's the political side of all this. President Trump has openly criticized California Governor Gavin Newsom and even suggested he should face arrest. What's interesting is that, for years, Trump argued that going after political opponents was unacceptable when he believed it was happening to him. Now, critics say the message appears very different when the roles are reversed. Whether you agree or disagree, that's a comparison many people are going to make. But that's just my perspective. Now I want to hear yours. Do you think this response was applied fairly, or do you think there was a double standard? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you never miss an upload, and leave a like because it really helps this video reach more people. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.